And speaking of amateur sports, the Winter Olympics are going on, and coming into Vancouver, they had more than 30 athletes. They were barred from the Olympics for anti-doping violations. Why are these athletes willing to risk everything, their whole careers, when they know they're going to be tested?
I can't answer that. I mean, there's some things that athletes do that are completely illogical and obviously not very well thought out. Maybe it's immaturity. Maybe it's the desire to win above all else. I'm sure there's several factors that play into the decision they make. You know as well as I do, there's been some poor decisions made. There's been some good decisions made. And there's been some decisions made that by fortune or unfortunate circumstances haven't been a factor because they haven't been caught.
Now I want to move back to Mark McGwire.
Okay.
He holds some pretty respectable records in the game. How do you feel that records of this era should be viewed? Of course, Barry Bonds holds the single season record with 73 home runs and all time. How should the records be viewed?
I think they should let the record stand. I mean, you know, sports change from decade to decade, year to year, day to day. So you want to put an asterisk next to Barry Bonds or Mark McGwire or something like that? I don't know. That's not my place to say, but I don't think that the gift that these athletes have, baseball players in particular, for their hand-eye coordination, to be able to hit the ball. I mean, there's nothing made that you could take that improves your ability to hit the ball. You might be able to hit it further, but you got to be able to hit it in the first place. So I don't know. You know, sports now is kind of snowballed out of control as far as the salaries. God bless the guys for making that kind of money because your career can end in a second. But it's such big business now that I think it's you know, it's a whole different animal than when I played.
And he also was up for the Hall of Fame this year. He only received 24% of the vote. 75% is needed. Do you think that he'll ever get in?
Probably not. Unfortunately, you know, there's a lot of resentment towards professional athletes by people who weren't able to participate as a professional athlete. So anything that can be said negatively against that athlete that would take the shine off of what they've done or say, oh, you know what, that figures. That figures. He couldn't have done it without it. I don't agree with that, and I'm sure that the players that have those things said to them don't appreciate it. But you know, that's part of being a professional athlete. You are a target. That's part of the package. If you can't and are not willing to accept that responsibility, then don't do it.
And Pete Rose, he bet on the game of baseball, and he was subsequently banned from the game. Yet these players who are using steroids are allowed to come back in the same season. Would you say that that's fair when they're doing something directly related to the game?
Well, I know that the gambling rules are very stringent. You know, they're always worried about a fix being put in. Every year when training camp started, we had the FBI come in and the National Football League head of security come in, Charlie Jackson, and I could tell you stories about that guy that would go on for days. But they're so worried about their reputation as a business and as a sport that they really did come down on Pete Rose. And, you know, I mean, he made a mistake and he didn't do anything to change the game. I think Pete Rose should be in the Hall. I mean, come on. Pete Rose? Because what, he threw a few bets down? Come on. I mean, Pete Rose. That's all I have to say, Pete Rose.
And in terms of punishments, currently in the NFL, it's a 4-game suspension on a first offense and a year-long ban for a second steroid offense. Do you think that the leagues should toughen these policies? And when you were playing, were players, did they fear these policies? Did they take them seriously?
I remember when I was playing, we had the strike in 1987. And in 1988, when we came back, we did not settle the bargaining agreement. So we were basically playing without an agreement with the owners. But there were, that's when they first started penalizing people in earnest for testing positive for steroids. And I can't tell you the number of guys, my friends and the guys that I played with, who just faded away. So yes, I think that it was a factor. And you know, the people who were playing with performance-enhancing drugs that couldn't compete at that level, that just disappeared, I think that it did make a difference in the performance-enhancing drug use, but I think, just like everything else, it's a cat and mouse game. They figure out how to test, then the other people figure out how to beat the test. It just goes back and forth every year, every day. I mean, it's a game.
And do you think that if they increase these punishments that we would see steroid use go away, or would they just keep, as you say?
I don't think you'd see it ever go away. I really don't.
Jose Canseco, he's a player who named a lot of names in the book Juiced. He has also been credited as saving the game of baseball by some. Would you agree with that statement, that by coming out and naming players that he saved the game of baseball?
No.
And how would players view someone like that who went around and gave up locker room secrets like that?
I don't think Canseco is very well liked.
And were there any players that you knew in your playing days who were forthright with the media like that, and how were they treated?
Forthright being, I mean...
About locker room secrets.
That would speak outside of a locker room? No, I didn't know any guys that did that. It wasn't tolerated. And
in 2003, Major League Baseball, they took a survey test to see how many players were using, to see if they had a problem. And 104 players came back, and this list is often talked about. It's how we found out about Alex Rodriguez and David Ortiz.
The list that wasn't supposed to be published?
And these names are leaking out one by one. What should Major League Baseball do with this list?
Man, I'll tell you what, if you could come up with the answer to that, you'd be working for Major League Baseball.
And do you think that if they don't release it, that we'll get names released one by one by one?
Probably. I mean, people can't keep secrets. If you don't want anybody to find out about something, don't tell anybody. So, especially don't write it down, and don't fill out a survey.
So should they just release it all at once? And do you think that if they did that, that we could just move on from it?
I don't think it would. I think it would just create a whole new controversy. I think maybe they ought to just, file it in the, put it in the round file, the trash can. I mean, I'm sure that when they filled that survey out, I'm sure they were assured anonymity and discretion. So, I mean, stick to your deal.
What sport would you say is most affected by steroid use?
I have no way of answering that, intelligently. I just don't know. It's not something that I follow.
And do you think that, I mean, athletes are allowed to use supplements and vitamins, and do you think there will ever be a time where there are advancements with steroids to where they're an accepted part of the game, where the negative side effects are taken away?
I don't know. Probably not. I mean, it's if you look at the game and take out the I don't even know how to put it, Brett. If you take out the negative things in any professional game, whether it's baseball, golf, tennis, skiing, football, any of the sports, if you take the negatives out of it, which are, by and large, personality defects that people have, what would be left? I mean, people love controversy, like I said earlier. Whether it's the papers that report it, television that airs it, the controversy is what reigns supreme in any media.
Going back to your playing days, what do you think the biggest driving force was causing players to use?
I don't. I really don't know. I can't speak to that with any authority or true knowledge, because it just wasn't something that was discussed. It wasn't something that was important. I mean, no, it wasn't even like, if you heard something, it was like big deal. And if you didn't, you didn't.